Live the home selling dream. Call Brock in the KW Selling Team. Go to the KWSellingTeam.com.
Hey everybody, I'm Brock Fletcher from the Selling Team with Keller Williams Real Estate Company. The new NAR lawsuit settlement initiative took effect on August the 17th, and so we're a couple weeks after that. I wanted to record a special video because I'm still getting a lot of questions and I'm seeing a lot of confusion with our clients and customers. So I'm gonna break it down into a story. Okay, so let's pretend that that you are a buyer and you want to purchase a home. You can't just go see a house without having representation from a buyer. So here's what that looks like. Let's pretend that you call on one of my listings and I answer the phone and we have a very cordial conversation about the details of the property. And at the end of that conversation, you say, I would like to see the property. And I have already educated you to the fact that I am the listing agent and that what you're looking for is a buyer agent to show you the property, okay? And so I'm going to set you up with one of my teammates, and then you have to have a consultation to decide whether you would like to hire that buyer's agent. And at that consultation, the buyer's agent is going to display their value proposition, and they're also going to go over a buyer agency contract in which you mutually agree for what is the compensation that you would pay to your agent for the real estate transaction. Okay, that's the first component. First thing I want you to understand in the story is there's no way to see a property without having a buyer agency contract with your buyer's agent, right? So you can't just call and go see a property. It's not okay. It's technically against the law for the agent to show you that property without a contract. So that's the first part of the story. Now, let's pretend that your buyer's agent sets you up on a search, identifies a property that you think is your dream property. And you say, let's pretend it's Mike Dedman from our team. Let's say Mike Dedman's your agent. There's a listing you really like, and you say, Mike, I want to see this property. However, I want to know first, before we see it, whether there's being compensation offered to you by the sellers because we're not sure that we have the money to compensate you. Okay, so then what Mike is going to do, now this leads into point number 2. It is now no longer legal through the multiple listing service for agents to display if there's a cooperating commission. So Mike actually has to call the listing agent of that potential dream home that you think you're interested in, and he's got to talk to the agent and he's got to say, I have a client that believes they're interested in seeing your property, but they wanted me to check first and find out if you're offering compensation to buyer's agents. And let's pretend the answer to that question is yes. And they say, Mike, yes, we are paying 2.5% or 3% or 3.5%. And then Mike goes back to his buyer and says, yes, they're offering compensation. They're paying X amount of compensation, okay? And then you say, that's great. We want to see the property. And Mike sets up the appointment to see it, okay? So that's kind of how that communication will look, because you're not allowed to advertise in the multiple listing service whether there's compensation. So Mike actually has to call. And then if you find out that there's no compensation being offered, then you as the buyer and Mike as the buyer's agent will make a business decision together whether you're still going to view that listing based on your economics and if you can likely afford the property. Okay. That brings me into the next point that can happen. So sellers are allowed through the MLS to offer a seller concession amount. So let's pretend that same property that you think is your dream property, in the MLS remarks, it says sellers are offering a 3% seller concession to the buyers. What that means is they kind of are offering compensation because they're offering blank percent. In this scenario I gave you, it's 3%. They've already publicly stated that they're going to offer 3% seller concession towards buyers' closing costs, and you can use those however you want. So you can apply them towards your lender closing costs. You can apply them towards the commission that you are paying Mike, your buyer's agent. They can be applied to anything. That can still be advertised within the multiple listing service. A seller concession can be advertised, and that is up to the listing agent and the sellers whether they're offering a seller concession in the verbiage of the listing. So I hope that makes sense. The last thing, point number 4, that's why I've got my hand up. In every contract that you're going to sign, whether it's a listing contract when you're the seller, or a buyer agency contract with your buyer's agent, or whether it's the actual purchase agreement, in that purchase agreement, it will say whether there is compensation for a buyer's agent or not within the offer. And also, there is a disclaimer that says real estate commissions are not set by law and they are fully negotiable. So every contract that you review is going to have that verbiage, and that's going to hold true for anywhere in the United States now, because it's very important that you understand as a customer, as a consumer, as a client, that all commissions are negotiated. They always have been. There's never been a such thing as a standard commission that is illegal and always has been illegal. So I hope that little story helps understand the core points of the NAR settlement. If you have more specific questions, please call me directly on my cell phone. It's 517-303-3262. I want to help you understand what is real and what is not real. Thank you.
Live the home selling dream. Call Brock in the KW selling team. Go to the KW selling team.